Go up. Hey, so today we will be discussing expanding the strategic scope. So, a key issue relating to strategic fit is the scope. So, what I meant is in terms of supply chain stages across which the fit applies, scope of strategic fit refers to the functions within the firm and stages across supply chain that devise an integrated strategy with an aligned objective. At one extreme, every operation within each functional area devises its own independent strategy with the objective of optimizing its local performance. In this case, the scope of strategic fit is restricted to an operation in a functional area within a stage of the supply chain. At the opposition or at the opposite extreme, all the functional areas across all stages of a supply chain devise aligned strategies that maximize supply chain surplus. In this case, the scope of strategic fit extend to the entire supply chain. So in this section, what we are going to discuss is how expanding the scope of strategic fit improves supply chain performance. For example, let's take IKEA, which has achieved a great success by expanding its scope of strategic fit to include all functions and stages within the supply chain. Its competitive strategy is to offer a reasonable variety of furniture and home furnishings at low prices. Its stores are large and carry all products in inventory. You must go to Hyderabad IKEA store if you want to get a clear idea on this. It's a very good store and very beautiful store, and it's very large. The way I am telling it here, it's not in US. You can go to Hyderabad, you can see this. You will be able to feel the whole experience. So going ahead, its products and design to be modular and easy to assemble. The large stores are modular design allow IKEA to move final assembly and the last minute delivery to high cost operations, I must say, to the customer. As a result, all functions within IKEA supply chain focus on efficiency. Okay, it means the cost will be more also. Its suppliers concentrate on so tell me, efficiency to cost will be more or less? Okay. Its supplier concentrate on producing large volume of a few models at low cost. Sorry for it. Its transportation functions focuses on shipping large quantities of high density assembled modules at low cost of the large stores. The strategy at every stage and function of the IKEA supply chain is aligned to increase the supply chain surplus. Let's talk about intra-operation scope, minimizing the local cost. So the intra-operation scope has each stage of a supply chain devising its strategy independently. So because the result decrease in inventory and transportation cost more than compensated for the higher unit cost. Uh, Talking about interfunctional scope, if you talk about interfunctional scope, the key weakness of a intra-functions view is that different functions within a firm may have conflicting objectives, right? So over time, companies become aware of this weakness as they saw. For example, marketing and sales focusing on revenue generation and manufacturing and distribution focusing on cost reduction, actions the two functions took were often in conflict, hurting the firm's overall performance. Companies realize the importance of expanding the scope of strategic fit and aligning strategy across all the function within the firm. So, with the interfunctional scope, the goal is to maximize company profit. To achieve this goal, all functional strategies are developed to align with one another and with the competitive strategy. The goal of aligning strategies across functions results in warehouse operations within McMaster carrying high inventory and excess capacity to ensure the marketing's promise of next day delivery is always met. The company's profits grow because the increased margin that customers are willing to pay for high reliability more than compensates for higher inventory and warehouse expense. The company enjoys the high profits because all functions align their strategy around the common objective of customer convenience in the form of next day delivery of a wide variety of MRO products. Now talk about intercompany scope maximizing the supply chain surplus. The goal of only maximizing company's profit can sometimes lead to conflict between stages of a supply chain. Considering an example, both the supplier and the manufacturer in a supply chain may prefer to have other side hold most of the inventory with the goal of improving their own profits, right? If the manufacturer is asking the supplier to have more inventory so that it has to manufacture less, or if a supplier is asking manufacturer to more manufacture inventory, but it will not get that from the manufacturer unless until it has a order coming into his picture, right? So if the two parties cannot look beyond their own profits, then the more powerful party will simply force the other to hold inventories without any regard for where inventories are best held. The result is a decrease in the supply chain surplus, the total pie that both parties get to share. The intercompany scope proposes a different approach. So, what it does, instead of just forcing the inventory onto the weaker party, the two parties work together to reduce the amount of inventory required. By working together and sharing information, they can reduce inventories and total cost, thus increasing the supply chain surplus. The higher the supply chain surplus, the more competitive the supply chain is. A good example of intercompany approach you want? I will tell you. Walmart and PAG plans propose promotions jointly. So what promotions jointly will do? The two companies have a team with employees from both parties that works to ensure that the promotion is timed and executed to benefit both sides. Before the initiation of the collaborative effort, promotions at Walmart sometimes required P&G to run its facilities with overtime at high cost. The result was a decrease in supply chain surplus because the product was sold at a discount at the time when it was being produced at a high marginal cost because they are doing overtime. So the collaborative teams now try to increase the supply chain surplus by timing the promotions to have high sales impact while minimizing the marginal cost increase. So they work to ensure that the product is produced in such a manner that all promotion demand is met without generating excess unsold inventory. For today, the key point is the intercompany scope of strategic fit requires firms to evaluate every action in the context of the entire supply chain. This broad scope increases the size of the surplus to be shared among all stages of the supply chain. The intercompany scope of strategic fit is essential because the competitive playing field has shifted from company versus company to supply chain versus supply chain. The company's partner in the supply chain may well determine the company's success, as the company is intimately tied to its supply chain. So tomorrow we'll be discussing about the agile intercompany scope. For today, we are done with our podcast. Thank you for watching or listening to this. Have a nice day.